Now, to state the obvious, the compact sedan space is easily one of the hottest spots to be in right now. Heck, the oldest car here hasn't even been on the market for more than 2 years yet. And in that time, the segment's gone from hatchbacks that happen to have boots, to cars which have been built up from the ground specifically for the segment and have personas of their own.
With so many options to choose from, picking one can be quite tricky. And having driven all 5 of these over the past week, we can tell you one thing right at the start, that every single one of them has something unique to offer. But what we're here to do is answer a few key questions that matter to you the most and pick the jack of all trades. So let's get started.
Unlike the old one, the new Dzire looks purpose-built for the segment. And I'd say that for the Tigor as well. Both cars are well designed, and more importantly, the boots don't look like afterthoughts. Build quality is par for the course, but feels a bit underserved when you bring in the Accent, or better still, the Ameo into the equation.
In terms of design, those are poles apart. The Volkswagen is clean, classy and simple, but some might call it a tad boring. The Accent though makes you pick sides. You can either love it or hate it. Then there's the Aspire that plays it safe. While the design was likable back in 2015, it is now beginning to show its age. That's about it on the surface. Now let's figure out what kit you get for your money.
Straight off the bat, it's the Tigor that comes across as value for money. It gets projector headlights, and the 8-speaker sound system is stellar. Better than what we've seen in more expensive cars in fact. But it's let down by the small and laggy touchscreen and the low-res rear camera. On the other hand, the Dzire features Suzuki's tried and tested SmartPlay infotainment system that's also the only one to feature inbuilt navigation. It also gets LED projector headlamps and a push-button starter. Like the Tigor, you do get auto climate control, but the Dzire gets rear AC vents too.
The Accent gets an equally expansive feature list, save for the LED lighting. That's great, but unlike the Dzire, anti-lock brakes are not standard across the range. In fact, they're limited to the top 2 variants only. On the other hand, ABS and dual airbags are standard across the range on the Volkswagen, and bits like cruise control, one-touch up-down power windows for all occupants, and rain-sensing wipers are unique to the Ameo.
And speaking of unique, the Aspire is the only car here to feature leather upholstery and gets 6 airbags on the top-end variants. However, finish quality could have been better, and it does lack both flashy and functional features. There are no DRLs, there's no touchscreen, and it misses out on even reverse parking sensors or a rear camera that have become needs these days. Speaking of needs, all 5 cars here have boots that are big enough for the family's weekend trips. But top trumps go to the Tigor for its 419-litre trunk. While in last place is the Ameo's 330-litre boot. That, well, isn't significantly better than the Polos.
So it's amply evident that cars here punch well above their weights, packing in features that were limited to bigger sedans not too long ago. Now that begs the question, which one delivers the best rear seat experience in terms of space and comfort?
If you're looking at seating 3 abreast, the Ameo is almost immediately ruled out. Even as a 4-seater, you'd struggle with the average kneeroom and headroom on offer. Add the relatively firm ride to the mix, and the Ameo feels like it's best enjoyed from the driver's seat. On the other hand, the Aspire is the second best car here to seat 3 at the rear. There's even a palatial sense of space thanks to the beige-heavy interior. But the flat bench offers very little in terms of support, and footroom is compromised by the front seat mounts. Coming in third here is the surprise package of the lot. The Tata Tigor has generous knee room and headroom on offer. But we think the under-thigh support could have been better and the ride could have been a little plusher. And that leaves us with the top 2.
The Accent's cabin is slightly narrow, which means it's best used as a 4-seater. Knee room is just about adequate for someone of my size, but what gives it the number 2 spot on this list is its ride quality that's really comfortable over a lot of different surfaces. Can't believe we're saying this, but it's the Dzire that's got the most amount of room at the back. It also delivers on that sense of airiness you expect from a sedan. It's got the most amount of knee room, got the most amount of shoulder room, which means sitting 3 in the rear is not a problem. As far as ride quality is concerned, it's just right inside the city. You won't have any complaints on that front, and out on the highway, it doesn't feel too nervous either.
Here's how the 5 cars fared when we broke out the measuring tape.
And here's how the engines stack up. The Ameo and the Aspire score big with their 1.5-litre diesel engines. Where the Ford offers a punchy 100 PS and 215 Nm to play with, the Volkswagen goes a step further, offering 10 additional horses and 35 more torques. The Accent and the Dzire stand shoulder to shoulder with 75 PS and 190 Nm of torque. But the Maruti offers a 4-cylinder motor, whereas the Hyundai makes do with a thrummy 3-cylinder engine. The Tigor, with its 1.05-litre power plant, is substantially down on oomph with 70 PS and 140 Nm. Dial in the fact that it's nearly as heavy as the Ameo, and it comes in dead last as far as the engine department is concerned.
And it's not just a matter of stats. The Tigor's motor sounds rather crude and lacks punch. It doesn't feel zippy even inside the city, and frequent downshifts are to be expected. Even when you shift down a cog, don't expect fireworks. On the plus side, the steering and clutch are light, which makes urban maneuverability convenient.
Contrarily, if it's punch and excitement you want, it's the Volkswagen that delivers. Unlike the Tigor, the Ameo feels relaxed on the highway and has enough torque in reserve for those split-second overtakes. Its shortfalls are amplified inside the city, with the heavy clutch and the turbo lag wear you out. The peaky power can be a handful to manage too, especially in bumper-to-bumper traffic. The Aspire shares its trait of exciting performance with the Ameo. The motor's quick to rev, but it's also quieter than the Volkswagens. The power delivery, while a tad spiky, is a little easier to control too. Problems? Well, the clutch's travel is a bit much and the action springy too, which can get a bit taxing in city traffic. Additionally, the gear lever is a bit loosey-goosey, and the gates aren't perfectly defined. It just doesn't complement the killer engine.
If you are going to be driving a lot inside the city, the Hyundai Accent is the one to pick, simply because it's the easiest to drive. The steering is light, the clutch is light, almost petrol-like light, and the gears are very sure slotting. Not to mention, you don't really need to shift the gears too often.
Yeah, a good amount of pull when you're going even from slow speed.
And even on the highway, I think it can do cruising speeds all day long.
It is definitely, that's the thing for me. It is capable. It can do 100 and speeds beyond that. But the thing is, just when you're at that mark, it's not that relaxed.
That top end is
exactly. So pretty much like the Accent, drivability is not really a problem in the Dzire either. It's never been that case. So you've got a nice and light clutch, it's not got too much travel, and even the gear lever, it's pretty sure slotting. I don't like it as much as the Accent. That's just got a certain game-like clicky little nature to it.
I think the highlight here for me for the Dzire is that the turbo lag is a lot better controlled than it used to be.
Honestly, I'm surprised about how it's so well controlled. Certain times in the Accent, if you are in, say, third gear, you can just accelerate, you're moving ahead, you can make an overtake. But in the Dzire, if you're stuck behind somebody who's driving too slowly, you're like, oh my god, move. You can't just slam the pedal. You probably have to shift down a cog to get that performance. But on the flip side, on the highway, this just feels so much more sprightly. It's got that kind of beyond 100, that performance doesn't really run out of breath, even when you're doing illegal speeds. At that time, it's not really revving too hard, it feels quite calm as a cruiser.
But that's not all, is it? It's still got one big trump card.
And the big ace is its fuel efficiency. The Dzire is the most fuel efficient of the lot, followed by the Accent. The Aspire was the least efficient inside the city, while the Ameo sipped the most on a highway run.
Now that's how the cars fared in the real world, and here are our final standings, starting with number 5, the Tata Tigor.
So it's in rank 5, it offers great value for money and God knows it looks unique too. But that engine, it just about cuts the mustard in the city and it's really underserved on the highway. Honestly speaking, if it was more powerful, it would definitely be in the top 3.
Bringing to the number 4 in this competition, the Volkswagen Ameo. It's really well built. It is really fun to drive with that punchy engine, but that rear seat just does not cut it and the stiff ride inside the city can get a bit annoying.
Bringing us to rank 3, the Ford Figo Aspire. It is the punchiest of the lot, it is genuinely the quickest even in terms of the numbers, and it can seat 5 on board. But the feature list, it's seeming a bit outdated right now and Ford has to play catch up with this car.
What doesn't have to play catch up is this, the Hyundai Accent. It's got all the features you can ask for. The engine is the most refined of the lot and it's genuinely easy to drive inside the city. Downsides include the narrow cabin, especially at the back, and the lack of ABS as standard across variants, which keep it from being the perfect package.
Which brings us to the jack of all trades. The one problem it doesn't have is safety anymore, so you got ABS, dual airbags and ISOFIX as standard from the base variant. It can seat 5 on board, the best. It is amazing in terms of its drivability, whether it's a matter of the city or the highway, not to mention the fact that it is the most fuel efficient, not only on paper but in the real world.
So the Dzire wins this competition by not just beating the other 4, it wins this by bringing a whole new level of sophistication into the mix. And it not only changes what we expect from a brand like Maruti Suzuki, it changes our expectation from the segment as a whole.